I'm a 34-year-old nurse with experience in public hospitals, but working in a nursing home was new for me. Cedar Grove Nursing Home was close to where I live, so I could walk to work, and the pay for the night shift was much better than in my old hospital, so I thought, why not? The other nurses warned me that each patient was different and that I might encounter some strange situations, but I didn't ask for specifics. I wanted to show them I was professional enough to handle anything, but I wasn't prepared for what was about to happen that night. I was doing my usual 11 p.m. rounds, checking on our residents. Everything was normal until I reached room 237. Mrs. Peterson, a sweet 92-year-old with dementia, was sitting up in her bed, staring at the corner of her room. Nothing unusual there. Residents with dementia often have irregular sleep patterns. "Mrs. Peterson," I whispered, "you should try to get some sleep." She turned to me slowly, her eyes wide and alert. "They won't let me," she said, her voice unusually clear for someone who usually mumbled. "They keep coming through the wall." I'd heard all kinds of stories from residents before, so I just nodded sympathetically. But then she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Her hand was ice cold. "They're getting bolder," she hissed. "They remember this place. From before it was a nursing home." A chill ran down my spine. I knew Cedar Grove had been a children's tuberculosis hospital in the 1930s, but we never discussed that with residents. How did she know? That's when the lights in the hallway began to flicker. Just a power surge, I told myself. But Mrs. Peterson started laughing, a horrible, knowing sound that I'd never heard from her before. "They're coming," she said, releasing my wrist. "They always come at midnight." I backed out of her room, trying to maintain my professional composure. The hallway was darker now, with only every third light working. As I walked toward the nurse's station, I heard something that made me freeze, the sound of children laughing. In a nursing home. At midnight. I turned around slowly. At the end of the hallway, in the darkness, I saw them. 3 small silhouettes, holding hands. They weren't solid. The exit sign light behind them shone through their bodies, casting a red glow that made them look like they were made of smoke. I'd love to say I acted professionally, that I remembered my training or followed some protocol. Instead, I was consumed by the most basic human instinct. I ran. But as I rounded the corner to the nurse's station, I slammed straight into our maintenance man, Joe. "Whoa, easy there," he said, catching me before I fell. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I tried to explain what I'd seen, but the words wouldn't come out right. Joe listened patiently, then sighed. "Look, I've worked here for 20 years, he said. "There's a lot of history in these walls. Sometimes it kind of bleeds through. Just don't let it bother you too much, or else that's when things get worse." I wanted to quit that night, but I remembered what Joe said about not letting it bother me too much, and Mrs. Peterson seemed to need someone who understood what she was going through. I still work the night shift. The children appear sometimes, always at midnight, always laughing. Mrs. Peterson passed away last month, and on her last night, she told me they were waiting to play with her. She wasn't afraid of them anymore. I'm not either, most nights. But sometimes, when I'm doing my rounds and the lights start to flicker, I hear Mrs. Peterson's laugh echoing through the halls. And I wonder if she's playing with them now, somewhere in the spaces between these walls, in a place where the line between the past and present doesn't exist. The hardest part is knowing that every night I work here, I'm walking a path between 2 worlds. Sometimes, I catch myself wondering which side of that path I'm really on.